Beloved students, after getting introduced to the setting of the story and the story writer, in this presentation, we are moving on to the story part of it. Before we start, just a word about the literary writings. Literary writings in general are mirrors held to the background, to the time at which they were written. They speak a lot about the social, cultural, and political, religious settings of that particular time, that particular region or province in which the story or an incident takes place. As I told you, Toba Singh is also such a story which is woven around the sufferings created or caused by the partition of India in 1947. The story goes like this. 2 or 3 years after the partition, the officials, the authorities, the governments, both in India and Pakistan, they felt that even the lunatics, the inmates of lunatic asylums, it would be good to transfer them to India, the Hindustani, the Sikh or Hindu inmates of the lunatic asylums in Pakistan to India, and to send to Pakistan the Muslim inmates who were living in India. The author very clearly tells us both the governments were not much sure about the relevance of such a transfer, but they wanted to transfer the people, Hindus and Sikhs, to India and Muslims to Pakistan. The orders were given and the proceedings began. When the news was announced in the lunatic asylum in Pakistan, mixed response came from the various inmates over there. Some of them did not even understand what people meant by this Pakistanis and Hindustanis. Some of them did not even know what was Pakistan. One person who was reading a particular newspaper called Zamindar, he has been reading it regularly for 12 years. And he was approached by a friend who asked this question, what is Pakistan? And the answer he got was very interesting. A place in India where they manufacture razors. A Sikh lunatic was there. He met another Sikh and asked, it seems, Sardarji, why are we being sent to Hindustan, we can't even speak their language. The response he got was, but I know the language of the Hindustanis. Hindustanis are devilish. Now, another inmate was there. One fine morning, he shouted, Pakistan Zindabad. And he shouted it so loudly that he slipped and fell onto the floor. Some of the inmates, they were not much affected by the news of this partition. They were like, most of them were like murderers who have committed serious crimes, and their relatives, some of them who were powerful enough to influence the authorities, managed to keep them there in the lunatic asylum so that they would be saved from the hangman's noose. Even today, when people commit serious crimes, if they are influential, finally they will be, when the case comes before the court, this is something, a point which is raised to get them released from the serious consequences. That is, they are mentally unstable. So, some of them were like that. They did not know much about this Hindustani-Pakistani separation or the political background or what was happening, the discussions that were going on in the higher level. All those things were not known to them. And they found it quite useless to gather information from the guards who were coming to them very often, because most of the guards were illiterate. So, they could not gather much information about this transfer. And so they were not very affected. Then, there was another man. He was like, one fine morning, he was doing some daily chores over there. Suddenly, he stopped doing that, climbed onto a tree, and remained there for quite a long time, saying, I don't prefer to go anywhere from here. I don't like to go to Hindustan. I don't like to go to Pakistan. It is better for me to remain over here, he said. And he spent a long time on the tree, it seems. Finally, after climbing down the tree, when he met some of his Hindu and Sikh friends, he just hugged them and cried bitterly, it seems, because he was very sad. He was saddened by the fact that he would be separated from his friends. There was a Muslim engineer. He used to spend his time walking back and forth in a particular path in the garden. One morning, he suddenly took off all his clothes and began running about naked. There was another Muslim, a fat one from Chiniot. He once was an active member of the Muslim League, it seems, and his name was Muhammad Ali. He identified himself with Muhammad Ali Jinnah, who was popularly known as Qaid-e-Aslam. and acted as if he was Quaid-e-Aslam. Another man confronted him, and there was a chance to have a bloody fight, from which, thank God, they were separated. Then there was a lawyer in the asylum, a young man from Lahore. He was actually in love with a girl. Even though the girl rejected him, it was heartbreaking for him to know that he was separated from her. She was living in India, in Hindustan, and he was in Pakistan. He did not want to go to India because he thought that would affect his practice badly. Still, the thought of his lady love living on some other land, separated from him, was really heartbreaking to him. There were two Anglo-Indian inmates over there. They were more worried about their breakfast if they are to be transported to India. They discussed whether they would be forced to eat the Indian breakfast or they would be given English breakfast. So, in general, this was the condition in the lunatic asylum in Pakistan. And so, such a rigmarole, says the author, took place in the lunatic asylum. Now I think you got a picture of what was going on there. Tomorrow, more about the central character, Bishan Singh, and how he has taken this particular news and what was the background of his life. How did he reach into the asylum? And all such things will be dealt with in detail in the next session. Now, thank you. Take care.